What do you guys think of alternative sources of funding in this environment? Like, how do those appear to VCs potentially in future rounds? Like, if there are founders who want to look at crowdsourcing funding or who maybe are a little bit further along and are looking at some venture debt, do you think that that will have a big impact on their, ability to raise if they want to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I can give my 2 cents, and Gabe, I'm curious your thoughts. I mean, I guess I've seen a lot of founders get upside down on venture debt. They are very smart. Honestly, I'm a reformed banker myself, coming from that world. If you don't know how to calculate your cost of capital fully with the equity that they're asking for and, prepayment penalties and everything, I'd really, think about that. So I just would put that out there. That is available. There's different types of financing. I think there's a little bit of, equity and debt mix that is optimal, but you really make sure you understand your cost of capital and how that moves with the interest rate environment first and foremost. I think the second thing I have is on crowdfunding. I might be biased, but I've never seen a crowdfund investment return. And often that's going to be the last source of capital. So maybe taking a little bit of snobbery away from, but maybe there's other VCs that would probably not, admit this, but there is a bit of snobbery to invest in the next round after there's been a crowdsourcing round. And really that's around governance. That's kind of, questions about it and just the marketability. It's a great branding tool, particularly if you're in sort of really sort of consumer focused deployments. It can be a really good, cheap marketing tool, but I really do think that it's almost like a source of capital as a last resort. I will say though that, if you can find private debt out there that's not super onerous terms, there is an opportunity because quite honestly, with interest rates increasing the way that they are, private money, family offices, they really like some of these structured debt instruments that, that might be cheaper than raising an equity round. So that's my 2 cents in the matter. I would say stay away from it unless you really have working capital finance and you think it's a really, sort of optimal cost of capital if you can calculate that.
Super smart advice. Cost of capital, number one. The overarching thing though too is like being successful with your startup erases all sins and problems. Okay. Doesn't matter how you raised money. It doesn't matter if you sold yourself as a prostitute to raise the money for the startup. If the business is successful and customers are buying it and you are making money and you've got a path to profitability, nobody cares. Oh my God, you've got the worst balance sheet ever, but you started Airbnb. Nobody's going to be hung up on your balance sheet at that point. Doesn't matter. So this is one of those things too, where investors, the professional investor class loves to hold some of this stuff over your head as a way of establishing what the perfect path to, success and profitability and stuff like that is. And I would just say to you, managing your cost of capital, super important. Managing your, the structure of your business, super important. Above all else, you've got to make the business successful. So what do pilots say? They say aviate, navigate, communicate. So pilots, they aviate, make sure the plane is flying and flying correctly and not flying into a mountain. Navigate, make sure you know where you're going. Then once you've got that under control, make sure you know where you're going and you're not going too far off course. Then you focus on that. And then 3 is communicate, make sure that you're talking to the people that you're working with and the people in your plane and so on and so forth. There's a priori list of things that are most important. And I think in our case, it's succeed, and then balance sheet. So anytime we're overly obsessed with balance sheet before we've dealt with the first two, we're missing missing the focus there.